You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans. We're three friends who love the club, the game and all things Bears. Each episode we talk about a game that's gone, a game that's about to come and anything else Bears related. However, sometimes we do the odd interview or docu-pod, and this is one of them. I'm Pete and I'm not joined by Lee or Miles, but rather I'm joined by Rob from Rosbifs Rugby Pod, who is going to give us a preview of Saturday's Champions Cup round of 16 away match against Toulouse. Well, Rob, this is your second appearance on Bears Beyond the Gate. For those listeners, our loyal listeners, they may remember you from your very informative preview you gave us when we were playing Po in the early stages of the thing, and you also went to that game as well. So
I did in the end,
You backed up your words with a bit of action, so we were very proud of you as an honorary member of the pod. So anyway, we thought, well, let's get back in touch. Bristol have been rewarded by playing well in the group games by an away game at Toulouse. This comes on the back of a fairly disappointing both result and performance at our big day out in Cardiff on Saturday. But I guess my first question to you is, can you give us a little bit of an overview of what you think it's going to be like on Saturday, and perhaps just give us some glimmers of hope that we might get a result?
Well, yeah, it's I find it we kind of struggle, me, Rich and I, my fellow Rosbif, to talk too much about Toulouse and Bordeaux because they're the teams that people that watch Champions Cup see a lot of, and obviously they make up a lot of the France team. So I think it was 11 of the 23 in that epic game in Paris a few weeks ago were Toulouse players. So it's very hard to say like too many big statements that are new or different. But I think there is always, we kind of always feel there's a bit more subtle opinion around the fringes around Toulouse and Bordeaux, and Toulouse, both of them I think are fallible, and I think Toulouse, for the first time recently and possibly over the weekend, they won at home to Montpellier at the weekend. On the face of it, they are, I think, 11 from 11 at home with 9 attacking bonus points in that. And in France, you have to score 3 more tries in the opposition rather than just the standard 4. So you've got to be clear by quite some way to get an attacking bonus. And they're basically averaging about 50 points a game at home. So it seems strange to say after a yet another home win where they racked up 45 points or whatever, that I actually, for the first time, feel Toulouse are genuinely fallible. The reason for that, there's a few reasons for that, but that game in particular, it looked like Toulouse were going to run away with it. Montpellier were second coming into it, so they'd got a really good away win the week before against Clermont. They'd got themselves up to second, so it was first for second, and they made 14 changes to their starting lineup. But it still looked like quite a strong Montpellier squad, that suggests that maybe they're going to concentrate on their Challenge Cup. I think they went through as top seeds, and you do see quite a lot of the kind of the bit behind the stat of Toulouse have got so many attacking bonus points at home. A few teams just throw in the towel. A few teams are like, we're not going to win. We'll just take that as a rest week, effectively, for our best players. And Montpellier seemed to have gone for that approach, and they leaked a load of tries in the first half. Looked like Toulouse were going to rack up a mammoth score. But they ended up fighting back and got a few tries. And actually, they denied Toulouse the attacking bonus point, which is, 2 out of 11 sides have done that this year. So it is quite rare. And it was essentially a second team, or not, like it still had plenty of international talent. But they were able to get back into the game. And I think that to me hints at an element of fallibility about Toulouse that we perhaps haven't seen in recent years. And I think in 2026, and possibly the back end with that defeat away to Glasgow, they have shown a little bit of fallibility. Part of me thinks it's like an arrogance or a boredom almost of kind of, we don't need you. I'd caveat this heavily with they've not had to try that hard yet, and so maybe in the if they need to, they could all just click into gear. And we've yet to see the best of Dupont, but Ramos was sensational on Saturday and has obviously had a really good Six Nations. So there is an element of if they click into gear when it matters, if they get them they've got that champion quality, they could do some real damage. But I think Bristol have got a chance to kind of give you a bit of comfort.
Do you think that do you think they'll bother that much about analysing us, or do you think they'll just assume that because they're at home, they've moved it to the football stadium, they're going to have a big crowd, that they don't really need to do much analysis on us? And my second question on that is, do you think they're actually, the one fallibility they might have is that they're actually looking towards the quarterfinal, because they'll make the assumption that Bordeaux will beat Tigers. And of course, it's quite brutal to have two back-to-back games. And of course, the harder game in their eyes is bound to be the Bordeaux game. So does that give us any comfort there that they might just sort of be a bit complacent?
I think they're going to be less complacent now in the Champions Cup at this stage than they will be in the top 14, because they are, I think off the top of my head, 12 points clear, having had a 2-point deduction as well. So they're quite some way clear in the top 14. So they can afford to, they don't need the killer instinct quite as much. And they've not looked as good away from home in a few top 14 games. But I think we saw last year that they prioritize, or they love the Champions Cup as much as anyone, really, and they will put a full strength side out this weekend with a view to actually using it to build momentum. But most importantly, they'll look to win, and they'll look to win next week. And there is a kind of expectation around Toulouse that this is when they win these games, they win these big knockout games. So I don't think they will take their eye off the ball in that sense. The one on analysis is interesting. I think there is a slightly lazy sense that Toulouse training is Hugo Moller chucks the ball in the air and says jouer, and they all just kind of go around and do whatever they want. But I think there is a lot more, the sense you get on the inside is there is a lot more detail and coaching and thought that goes into the Toulouse game plan than people might think. I don't know how much analysis they do of opposition. We certainly, I know it's not like for like as much as some people might think it is. But Fabien Galtier certainly tweaked his game plan during the Six Nations to adjust for opposition teams in terms of how he rotated his back five of the scrum and stuff like that. I think Hugo Moller and Toulouse will have looked at Bristol for sure. I think the fact that they kind of ran Bordeaux relatively close in the group stage. I think the fact that they were probably a little bit undone by Glasgow away as well suggests that I think they'll probably pay a bit more attention and might have given them a bit of a kick up the arse for this tournament, if anything.
I mean, one of our biggest problems, I think, and that was on Saturday in Cardiff, but potentially is our biggest issue, is that we've lost Pedro Rubiolo and Joe Batley to injury since the Six Nations. And I think that is one of the big issues we've got. And I think that is putting us at a huge disadvantage. I was just out of interest, and the two guys that are in there, James Dunn and Joe Owen, local Bristol boys, are brilliant. They're great players. James Dunn is he's had more than 50 appearances in the Premiership for Bristol, but he is off to Harlequins at the end of the season. Joe Owen is our kind of up and coming, and I love both those. I think they're brilliant players, but I don't think they quite have the grunt that Batley and Rubiolo would have had. Just out of interest, the teams haven't been announced, but who would be playing in the second row for Toulouse, do you envisage?
It will almost certainly be Thibaut Flamand and Manu Miafu. Manu Miafu, was due to play last week, but sat it out. He was named originally. I think he picked up some sort of minor injury. I think what I saw, he was due to be fit.
Can we just clarify that Miafu is that massive bloke that plays for France?
And I think for us, Rich and I kind of decided that he was probably France's best forward.
Yeah.
On when he was on the pitch, he was France's best forward in the Six Nations. I think he's refound some form. That he had a slight dip, and he is, like we were looking at it ahead of the Italy game when the Italy game when he first came back into the starting lineup. He's 20 kilos heavier than Mikel Guillard, who is a decent sized international lock.
So
He's 145 kilos. It's big. It's really big, and I think that makes a difference at that level. But Flamont himself is sizable, and they're both brilliant ball in hand.
Yeah,
and brilliant at they do a lot of like hard. It's one thing I do notice about Toulouse. It feels really niche, but I've noticed it, and as soon as you notice it, you can't unsee it. But they do a lot of like hard rucking. Yeah, like a lot of proper, actual, old school counter rucking and stuff like that. And obviously, like having Jack Willis in your back row helps slow down an opposition ball to be able to set up a proper ruck and stuff like that. But Flamont and Miafu do a lot of that dirty work as well as the outrageous offloading game.
I mean, you just reminded me that they've got Jack Willis. I forgot about that. I mean that does sound quite ominous, because one of the problems we had on Saturday was that Harlequins absolutely destroyed us at the breakdown, particularly Alex Dombrandt and so forth. But having said that, last year when we had our final group game at Claremont, James Dunn and Joe Owen actually played then. And they played pretty well. We know James Dunn quite well. And he told us that it was one of his best. Like he got really inspired by the crowd and by the whole occasion, and actually they played pretty well, and we were very close to we threw it away at the end and blah blah blah. So I mean that is quite frightening, I've got to say. But those boys know what they got to do, and who knows.
I think there's a general perception that all French packs are massive, and they're all, the top 14 is just this one big grind. I'd say certainly last season's iteration of Claremont was very much that we are big blokes, we are going to maul, we are going to run directly. It was 10-man rugby or give it to a winger that's a flair player, but generally it was 10-man rugby, physicality. So it's a good sign for Bristol if you felt like Dunn and Owen did well last year at Claremont, because Claremont are a big pack. Toulouse are not light years ahead of everyone. I feel like we wouldn't consider them one of the forward powerhouses in the top 14, which is ridiculous. They probably score as many maul tries as anyone else. They probably get as many scrum penalties as anyone else. But there is if you're going to get Toulouse anywhere, up front would be one of them. Even though, which is mad, given it's going to be Marchand, it's going to be Aldeguerri. It's going to probably be Rodrigue Netti as well. So you've got 3 front rowers there that all played in the Six Nations for France. Aldeguerri is not a fearsome scrummager. No. I think fans have seen that. Joel Merkler, the young Spanish guy, is kind of really developed. He's come on quite a lot, so they do now have a little bit more scrum solidity if they have that. But they're not. You can get at them in the forward pack, which is mad because they're all massive French internationals. But I would say, when I was thinking about the trump cards, I think I was kind of thinking, it's funny, the two teams that have the two English teams that have the most daunting trips in Bristol and Leicester, they are probably, and I think Leicester might be going a little bit weaker, which is, I'm a Leicester fan, so I'm absolutely livid about that. But Leicester are probably the team you'd back to play against Bordeaux, and I'd say Bristol are possibly the team that you'd back over most to play against Toulouse. Like, as much as Bath and Northampton are excellent this season, I'd fancy Bristol just as much as I'd fancy Northampton against Toulouse.
And of course, Genji
is a trump card. Yeah, is he going to play though?
Oh yeah. He got his week. He better, unless he's injured. He had his week off when we played Tigers straight after the Six Nations. So I think he was held back for both the big game out. He didn't have a great game, to be fair, but he's a proud guy, and also he played in that that England-France game. He knows what to do, and if we who knows, if we get a few early scrum penalties and the narrative goes with us, get kicked to the corner. Rugby's a funny old game, as we all know, and momentum can shift. And as France proved, you get under their skin when England did and played a slightly different game. It kind of went all chaotic. So I think you've given us a little bit of hope there, a tiny bit.
I think that's the other area of fallibility for Toulouse, and the area that I think the kind of possible laziness comes into it slightly is in the centres. I don't think they quite know at the moment who their best centre pairing is. My sense is that it will probably be Chocobaras, Argentine international, and Pierre-Louis Barassi.
Yeah.
Or Calvin Gorge, who's the kind of young guy who might play 13, or Gorge and Barassi. But I would say they should be playing Chocobaras for some defensive solidity. Pierre-Louis Barassi is a very good player. He plays very well for Toulouse. He's been a bit he's not shown he's not quite done enough at international rugby, I'd say. And something that's crept in, I've noticed in international rugby, and him and Moefana for France have had some real issues with just complete disconnect in defense. And I'm not a huge analyst, but you don't need to be like the most hard like analyst rugby fan to notice just complete massive gaping holes. And Barassi seems to love to fly up a little bit, or the communication isn't there. So so I think possibly in midfield, Bristol again might have a bit of joy in terms of picking holes, and there does seem to be the odd gap. Like we saw it against Glasgow. I think it was Paul Cost was playing then possibly with Gorge. They're making errors defensively in wider channels, and I think that again that suits, from what I see of Bristol anyway. You guys watch much more than I do, but to be a strength for Bristol's.
Yeah, we got Bernard Yancey van Rensburg, and funnily enough, he was on the bench on Saturday, the first time ever, and came on. But I think he'll start. It'll be James Williams and him starting. Tom Jordan you look at there'll be a debate. Possibly Harry Randall probably will start. Tom Jordan 10, James Williams inside 12. Bernard Yancey van Rensburg 13. Lewis Rees-Zammit will probably be fullback again. It sounds good. There's some really good players there. And actually, was Barassi the guy that played for France last year when we beat them at Twickenham with that last try Elliot Daly scored?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that centre, he wasn't at the races on that last few minutes. So yeah, that gives me hope. So Bears fans out there,
they put 70 points on Italy the following week, but they still conceded 24.
Yeah,
and that I seem to remember was Barassi as well.
Yeah,
and as soon as him and Moefana got named to start against against England this year, I immediately saw something on Twitter saying the Elliot Daly, a French kind of journalist saying the Elliot Daly try from last year. People will remember that.
Yeah,
they obviously didn't have a great time in that second half once Deportaire went off against Scotland. So he's a brilliant player. Like he's a very, very. He's a kind of all or not, like all sort of player. He kind of gives it everything in attack, runs it from anywhere. Very powerful, like really cool, like a fun player to watch. But I think there's an element of chaos that doesn't always suit, or it does is fallible, makes Toulouse fallible.
Well, maybe chaos is what we need. Right, I think you've given us enough there. I think that hopefully anyone who's listening to this who's going to the game will have a glimmer of hope, and who knows. So latest reports were there's 1,200 Bristol fans going. So I guess they're all if they're flying out, they'll all be flying out on Friday. So, the second half of this was, Toulouse, I guess, better than most Bristol fans who are going out there. The game's on Saturday night. I think the flight isn't back till Monday. So what do you reckon? What sort of places should they go? I'm sure they're going to absolutely have a fantastic time regardless of what happens with the rugby. Brilliant rugby city. A few tips for our fans.
Well, I have. You mentioned it there. Brilliant rugby city. My number one recommendation. I don't know what time the flight is on Friday, but I'm just trying to look online, but there will be tickets. Friday evening, Colomiers are hosting Dax at 7:30 at the Stade Michel Bondechou, which is Colomiers kind of suburbs of Toulouse.
Yeah.
It's actually quite near the airport.
Yeah.
You can get seats in the stands for €10.
Wow.
There doesn't look. Oh no, there's a few dotted around. For a little bit of additional context, Colomiers are currently second in Pro D2, so they beat Provence last week, who are one of the big budget sides preparing for the top 14. Colomiers are having a brilliant season. They finished third last year. They have been trying to build themselves in the identity of Toulouse in a way, kind of bring players through the academy. They play some fantastic rugby, so they're a kind of, if the scrum holds up, they will win sort of team, because they're always going to outscore the opposition. They've actually their fly half is actually a guy that's on loan from Toulouse, a guy called Valentin Delpy, who is absolutely brilliant. I think this season he missed his first ever top 14 kick in like his 10th game or something. But he'll play for France. He's like 22. He was on loan at Perpignan last year, but they're playing Dax at home at 7:30 on Friday evening, which I've just looked. Fully recommend.
It's a sold out flight from Bristol. It's 1 o'clock. Gets in at 3:55, 4 o'clock. So there's time. So
ideal.
What about we've got about 10 minutes left on my Zoom call here. So let's say get through Friday. What should Bears fans be doing kind of all day Saturday to sort of get ready for the game Saturday evening?
The big thing Saturday morning, and it's generally in the city, is to go to, this is the most unoriginal recommendation ever, but to go to the Marche Victor Hugo, which is a traditional French market indoors. It's got all of it's an attack on the senses. You know, you've got all your kind of fat covered duck legs and stuff like that. But there's a few bars there. You can actually take drinks outside and take all your wares from the market, and there's just some freestanding tables just outside. But there'll definitely be quite a lot of people there going for the match, and sometimes there's like the brass band there to kind of build the atmosphere in the morning. It's just got a buzz about it that is amazing. Upstairs at the Marche Victor Hugo, there are a load of restaurants that are your kind of prefix €25 for 3 courses sort of thing, €30 for 3 courses. You get traditional French food, you get some great wine. You can kind of go to the duck place, or you can go to the steak restaurant or the fish restaurant. You know, it's kind of got a bit of variety up there. Go and get your cassoulet. That's the traditional local Toulouse dish. So the Marche Victor Hugo is where it's at Saturday morning. That's the main one. Being at the football stadium is interesting. It's walkable, I'd say, from the city centre. And you walk along the river. You kind of walk along like a little bit of a canal, and it's not necessarily the most scenic, but it's quite nice if the sun's out. I would say kind of with the river, so the Garonne and the bridges are kind of quite iconic in Toulouse. If you've got good weather on the Friday evening, you can just get some beers from anywhere. But there's a couple of craft beer places that I can recommend that you can just go and get some cans from there and sit on the steps and just soak in the sunset. It's like a really cool thing to do. There'll be loads of people. It's quite a big student population to Toulouse, so there's always like quite a buzz around some of the areas. Like there's a bar called Chez Tonton, which is where Toulouse go for their like day 3 of their celebrations when they've won their latest top 14 title or whatever. Yeah. Which is if you're a student or you're younger than you and I, Pete, then go there because it is lively. But there's it's right by the river, and there's a few other bars around Chez Tonton that are good fun. You guys are quite into your beers, aren't you?
Oh yeah, well, we are, but I'm sure there's quite a lot. I mean, I imagine, I don't know what the profile, the demographic of most of the Bears fans going out probably are beer or cider drinkers. So
yeah, I don't know too about cider that much, but in France, or not in that part of France,
not in that
anyway.
France, no. But just stick with the beer, yeah.
So there's a few places. There's a place called the Bierographe, which is it is a proper kind of craft beer
Yeah.
place. It's kind of quite an extensive list if you're a real nerd about it, like I am. If you want something a bit more like less specialist, a little bit more with a bit more buzz, there is the Hopscotch Pub, which I'm sure Bristol has probably got taken over, but it is a Scottish pub.
Okay.
But it does actually have a brewery like in-house, like it does
Nice.
brew a few of their own beers. There is also a bar that I really like called Little Big Bar, which is kind of down by the river, not quite as far down as Chez Tonton, but it's not far from there. And it's quite a small bar, but they've got some tables outside. They will show sport. They will show live sport. So I've watched the Ryder Cup there. I've watched Pro de Deux. If it's not on, just go up to the bar and ask them. But they've got a couple of like decent beers on tap. You can get a little mixed platter. I would say about Little Big Bar as well. It's like there's a few really good restaurants along there. You might need to book, but it's on that road where Little Big Bar is. We love a place called Le Dahu, which is along there. For like a really good value set menu. The Dauphinoise is sensational. But there's a few kind of quite cool little eateries around there.
That sounds great, because I was just looking, the flight back from Bristol's not till Monday, 10 o'clock. So people have got all day Sunday to then relax and check out some of these places as well and have a nice lunch, I imagine, and so on.
Yeah, the place that I've just found it, the place that I've been to for kind of local craft beers to pick up some cans if you did want to go and sit by the river, is a place called La Voie Maltee. So VOIE and then MALTEE. And Richard, my fellow Rosbif, will definitely shout at me if I don't say, and I say this with absolute zero irony, this is a genuine recommendation. Next to the Marche Victor Hugo is a sports bar with a decent range of beers called Pub O'Clock. And that is a genuine recommendation. We generally go there every time that we go to Toulouse. I think we watched France v Croatia in the Qatar World Cup in there. It was absolutely rammed, but they've got loads of screens, good beer range. You can get punk IPA if that's what you want. You can get your kind of standard lagers, but they've got a few kind of local. Yeah. I think they do Kilkenny or Murphy's or something like that. But it's not. It's kind of a halfway house between a French pub, a French bar, and a like overseas Irish bar. But yeah.
Just say the name.
Pub O'Clock.
Pub O'Clock.
And it's easy to remember as well.
Yeah, I reckon there'll be a lot of punters there. Well, look, Rob, it's we're getting close to the end of my free Zoom call, but I think you've given us a load of stuff. I might actually ask you, if you don't mind, you could just text me the names of those, and I'll put them in the show notes so people can look at it, listen to it. I think that's absolutely fine. That's brilliant.
I will also give you personally, Pete, and the other guys, the name of my favourite, genuinely one of my favourite bars in the world. It's a little wine bar down a side street where you can get some amazing natural wine, good quality wine for about €5 for a generous glass. It's quite hidden, and it's our like special little secrets that we have on Rosbif. So I will give it to you, and you can divulge it to whoever you want.
Okay.
But maybe any close personal friends. I've got a friend that's a Bristol fan. He's going out for the game, and I said you've got to go there. So that is it's like my number one recommendation. But it's a little tap on the nose, hush hush one.
Maybe we have to get DMs for that one, just to see.
If anyone's listening to this and they want it, you've got to slide into our DMs. We're Rosbifs Rugby on all social media. So
I'd say, well, that'd be a good challenge. See if people do listen to the end. If people send a DM to us, probably Twitter or our email, and they make the effort to do it, I will divulge the name of this very special bar as a bit of an incentive to loyal listeners who listen to the end, because I'm not sure how many do. Well, look, on that note, I think we should leave it there. That's absolutely brilliant. Well, look, really appreciate it. Really appreciate the time. I'm sure that those people going out will enjoy listening to the pod, hopefully, on their flight out. And I hope we've given them a little bit of optimism. But I know that the Bears fans are just going to go out there for a great weekend anyway, because it's not often. We've been starved of glory days to be honest, over the years. So hopefully this will just be the first of many trips out to France. We hope, and who knows, there might be another one to Bordeaux. Yeah,
might see you in Bordeaux the following week.
Absolutely. Well, look, great stuff. Thanks very much for coming on. Keep up the good work with the Rosbifs Rugby. I should say to people who fancy a little bit of an alternative sort of rugby noises out there that like to know what's going on. It's a fantastic podcast all about French rugby. And I've listened to it a few times and really enjoyed it because it's just quite nice to get away from English rugby from time to time, especially when you're not winning. So thanks so much. Really appreciate it. And have a great week.
Cheers. Thanks very much for having me. Au revoir.